Today we are diving into the 4 ways agency authority is created for the national portion of the real estate exam. This is a foundational concept because the exam loves to test how an agent-client relationship begins and what legal weight it carries. We start with express authority, which is the most common and preferred method. Express authority occurs when the principal and the agent specifically state their intentions to enter into an agency relationship either orally or in writing. On the exam, keep an eye out for the Statute of Frauds, because while oral express authority is legally binding in some contexts, most states require a written agreement for an agent to actually collect a commission. If you see a question about a signed listing agreement or a buyer representation agreement, you are looking at express authority. Next, we have implied authority, which is where things get tricky and where many exam questions find their nuance. Implied authority is not stated in words, but is created by the actions or conduct of the parties. For example, if you start showing a buyer houses and giving them advice on offer prices or providing confidential market data without a formal agreement, you might be creating an implied agency. The exam often frames this as a cautionary tale because implied agency can lead to unintended dual agency, which is a major red flag for regulators and can lead to license suspension. Then we have agency by ratification, which happens after the fact and represents a unique legal situation. Imagine an agent performs an unauthorized act, like signing a sales contract for a seller, while the seller is out of town without having power of attorney. If the seller returns and decides they actually like the terms and signs the document anyway, they have ratified the agent's previous unauthorized action. By accepting the benefits of that unauthorized act, the seller has ratified the agency relationship post facto. The key here for your exam prep is the timing, because ratification always occurs after the unauthorized act has already taken place. Finally, we have agency by estoppel, which is also known as ostensible agency and is frequently a point of confusion for students. This occurs when a principal leads a third party to believe that someone is their agent, and the third party relies on that belief to their detriment. If a homeowner watches a person show their house to a prospective buyer, and the homeowner allows the buyer to believe that person is representing them, the homeowner may be estopped or legally prevented from denying the agency later. The exam loves to test the difference between ratification and estoppel. Remember that ratification is about the principal actively choosing to accept an act, while estoppel is about the principal being legally barred from denying an act because of their own negligence or failure to speak up. A great mnemonic to remember these 4 types is the acronym EIRE, which stands for Express, Implied, Ratification, and Estoppel. Think of it as every interest requires evidence to help you remember that while these 4 methods exist, the written express agreement is always the gold standard for protecting your commission and your license. Watch out for trick questions that ask which type of agency is the safest for a broker, because the answer is always express authority in writing. Another common trap involves the difference between actual and apparent authority, where apparent authority is simply another name for estoppel. If a principal creates the appearance of agency, they are bound by the consequences of that appearance. By focusing on these definitions and the specific actions that trigger them, you will be able to navigate the agency questions on the national exam with confidence. You should also be aware that agency by necessity or agency coupled with an interest might show up as distractors, but the core 4 you need to master are express, implied, ratification, and estoppel. Understanding that agency is essentially a fiduciary relationship created by the delegation of authority allows you to spot the specific moment the relationship began. Always analyze the exam prompt to see if the authority was granted before the act through words, which is express, or through behavior, which is implied, or after the act, which is ratification, or by law, through the principal's silence, which is estoppel.